Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is Ukraine War Frontline update for the 7th of September 2023. I spent most of my day faffing around with a Ukraine War update extra video that had copyright infringements and I had to read all the text that the audiobook was speaking. YouTube didn't like it at all, so that's delayed. It's a big old piece as well to do with Russian trolls. Really enjoy that topic as well. I love doing that video. I'd be interested to see what you think. Anyway, that's a long one. That's like an hour and 5 minutes or something. That video. It's quite a big analysis with it's like a book club as well, where I'm reading a book to you. Anyway, let's get to the Frontline update. Not a lot of difference from what I said this morning. So I've been waiting all day for more information to come out. It's been a really, it's been slim pickings, should I say, for information. So one thing that did come out is the Biden administration believes that the Ukrainian counteroffensive will last another 6 to 7 weeks. There's claims that they do think there will be a major breakthrough. They're I suppose a reaction to the doomsaying from some people. What else happened? Well, I reported this morning that the Russian volunteer corps were active over the last few days, or yesterday at some point. It's all a bit kind of hush-hush to a degree, in Bryansk, which is over to the kind of center of Kiev, I guess, center of Ukraine, northeast of Kiev, just going into Russian territories there. Somewhere around there, they have been active and killed an FSB agent. Again, I believe FSB officer was killed and 10 wounded. Kenneth Gregg reported this morning, he's a Finnish fighter in Ukraine, saying new trends indicate the Russians have too few units. We can see this in the fact that they are retreating on certain front sections without fighting. We see this at Kamyanska, where they've retreated to positions that are more sustainable. The same applies in the north, to the north of Bilohorivka, because there are no strategically important areas. They simply go into defense. After the Russians have withdrawn, ours inspect the abandoned positions and pull back to our safe positions. On the Robotyne front, we have again advanced south and southwest from yesterday's position, slowly but surely expanding the Russians' trenches and defences. So that is interesting. He thinks that there's evidence that there are just not enough Russian defenders, Russian troops, to adequately defend by attacking, which is what they have been doing, and now they are just pulling back in certain places. A slight change of tactic, I think, hinted by Kenneth Gregg. Take it with a pinch of salt, of course. Suriyat maps indicates, again, I told you this morning, they haven't produced anything extra. They indicate that the Ukrainians have lost some territory up near Heorivka, and in fact, there's further claims of that here from Global War Monitor along the same lines, that Russia has advanced near Novoheorivka in Luhansk Oblast, taking some positions previously liberated by Ukraine. So that's 2.4 square kilometers removed from the liberated status and added to occupied status. So let's go there. This is up on the northeastern sector from Kupiansk to Svatova to Kreminna. The Russians are having success around Novoheorivka. Again, after the Ukrainians pushed them back, the Russians pushed from the Sherebets River here, did this kind of distracting counterattack, took about 5 kilometers plus. The Ukrainians pushed them back, and now the Russians appear to be pushing the Ukrainians back. A little bit of push and shove there. And then we come down to Bilohorivka, north of there. I think that's where Kenneth Gregg was talking about this area in the forest, where Suriyat Maps is saying that the Ukrainians have had some success there. Here is the map that they provide. Ukraine captured some positions in the forest of Kreminna. This is after they claimed that Russia was making gains here, although Andrew Perpetua said no, the opposite. So there's this kind of area there that, well, actually all of this area, Andrew Perpetua disagrees with Suriyat Maps, the red line there. I haven't given you my map legend. Most of you know what it means. If you don't know, the blue line and the red line are both Russian defensive lines. And the blue line is Andrew Perpetua's map, red line is Suriyat Maps, the white line is the pre-counteroffensive defensive line, as are called, being two deep state maps, a pro-Ukrainian mapper. Okay, so that's that out the way. We'll move down to Bakhmut, and there's not really much news coming out of Bakhmut either. Nothing throughout the day that I've been able to discern. That's just talking again about Kreminna. Interestingly, the claim about the forest area and area being taken back by the Ukrainians. Originally, it seemed to have come from Wargonzo, who is a pro-Russian ultranationalist. Said a number of things, one of which he said is Ukrainians regained a number of positions in the Crimea forest. And then other things that he says that we'll come on to in a little while. But yeah, going down to Klishchivka and Bakhmut, well, there's some clarification over territory in Bakhmut. I don't know that this is an attack by the Ukrainians, but this is certainly a claim that from Global War Monitor that the Ukrainians have a little bit more of this area just north of Bakhmut in the Rose Alley region, or the Rose Alley area there, than was previously thought. I don't know that that's an attack, but maybe a clarification, as they say. And then Klishchivka, Syriac Maps, a pro-Russian mapper, admits that the Ukrainians have made some gains there. Ukrainian managed to recapture the western part of Klishchivka and advanced south towards the railway, where their troops retook many positions. Hours later, the Russian army counterattacked and stopped the advance of the Ukrainians and managed to recover some of the positions themselves. They do like a big U-turn, especially if it's Ukrainians doing the U-turning there. So, as ever, take their claims with a pinch of salt. Take all claims, I guess, with a bit of healthy skepticism. Right, we're going to then go on down to Donetsk. So this is a real whistle-stop tour. It's late for me, and so it is what it is. We're going to bypass Avdiivka. There's no doubt lots of activity taking place all along here, but I'm going to move to Novodonetsk here, Novomayorsk, and the triad of Kamenchik, Novodonetsk, and Novomayorsk. That these are holding out, but there's increasingly the Ukrainians are putting pressure to the west of Novodonetsk. That is something, again, I think that Wargonzo, does he mention? No, actually he doesn't. So anyway, going back to where I was, which is P-Style 1-1, saying there are field reports that Ukrainians have cut the road to Kamenchik. There were claims about this several weeks ago, but probably more likely now, from Novodonetsk to Kamenchik. If this is true, it's excellent news. A subsequent advance on Kamenchik is needed to dominate the heights and the area and the road towards Mariupol and from Starominivka, a point I made a few weeks ago, he says. And then furthermore, Global War Monitor here saying, at an unspecified time in the last 2 weeks, Ukraine liberated this area of farmland east of Uruzhany and west of Novodonetsk. So that added to the area they signified yesterday, and an area by just north of Zavitna Bezhania by Uruzhany that Ukrainians had also liberated. So this could be more of a clarification than added yesterday, but nevertheless 3 square kilometers added to the liberated status around that area. So that's good news for the Ukrainians. They seem to be having some success around here. I don't know about this random bit of territory that Syriac Map seems to think the Russians control. I doubt that's the case. So yeah, lots of activity around there. We'll go on now towards Robotyne. It would be good to know of more actions taking place there, but it does seem to be quite quiet still in the Velika Novosilka. So that in general, they've kind of picked up, but they seem to have picked up mainly around that Novodonetsk area rather than trying to attack in these other places. And Robotyne, it's pronounced by everyone completely differently. There is still a lot of activity going on, as you can well imagine, but not a great deal of news coming out today. Wargonzo said this morning that the Russian units unsuccessfully counterattacked near Robotyne, and that the Ukrainians tried to break through towards Novoprokopivka, and they did liberate new positions. So whether they broke through, I don't know, but they liberated some positions there. Now, there were rumors that the Ukrainians were fighting in the north of Novoprokopivka. They had taken control of these trenches just to the north. Haven't heard anything particularly today. No doubt as soon as this video comes out, there'll be lots of news just coming out. That's the nature of the beast. Zaporizhia, Getty says, operational situation in Tokmak direction west of Verbove. The Ukrainians have partial success along the defense lines, evidenced by footage from enemy drones, and Russians are preparing for imminent battles in the village, are conducting additional mining. That's something to worry about, I guess, if they are having the opportunity to do that. In the direction of Novoprokopivka, fighting continues in the grey zone. The setting is dynamic. On the southwestern outskirts of Robotyne, fighting continues for control of the large stronghold, which is key to the defences of that settlement. And then some more recently today, we have George Barros, who's associated with the Institute for the Study of War, the American military think tank, saying Ukrainian forces are making tactical gains northwest of Verbove. Ukrainian forces likely pinched off or are pinching off a tactical salient that they made northwest of Verbove, where Russian fortifications are notably less developed and not as well connected to communications. So this is in this whole northern area by that confluence. If we get Andrew Perpetua's map out, that should give us a good idea, because he has a good sense of where these, or he's able to add onto his map the data of the fortifications, which is super useful. If I can get it, yep, there it is. Okay, and we're going to go to Robotina. That's not the fortifications I want. I always do that. I need that. Fortification lines. That's what I want. Yes. Okay. So here we go. What George Barros is talking about is this area north here. Andrew Perpetua has that as a grey zone. But George Barros is saying that the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back. As you can see, I don't know if we can GIF, and I can't make it larger. But just where there's that confluence of trenches just directly north from there. So that is just up here that the Ukrainians are having some joy with. We'll see if there's any further gains as Andrew Perpetua does his next mapping. Now I'm going to go on to, I don't think George Barros says anything else. Oh yeah, geolocated footage posted on September the 7th shows Russian forces striking the new Ukrainian position in a tree line northwest of Verbove, indicating Ukrainian advances there. And satellite imagery collected on September the 6th shows fires in a tree line 1 kilometer northwest of the confirmed Ukrainian advance from the footage posted on September the 6th. This imagery indicates that either Ukrainian forces advanced into here and were struck by Russians, or that Ukrainian forces conducted fires against Russian forces in the trees. I am inclined to interpret it as a former, given that the following Russian tactical reports is that multiple Russian mill bloggers acknowledge that Ukrainian forces reached the northwestern outskirts of Verbove on September the 6th. Some reports state that Ukrainian forces withdrew after taking losses, but that is not unanimous. Rebar's latest map, so this is a pro-Russian source of the Verbove area of September the 7th, shows Ukrainian forces occupying the Russian trenches at a particular coordinate. The territory south of there is in a manner consistent with the Russian reports and the observed combat footage and fires. While there's no visual confirmation of a Ukrainian presence at this particular point, Rebar's reported frontline makes full sense given the observed combat footage and fires of the south to the south of these trenches. Russian forces here would be in an uncomfortable salient otherwise. So he's talking about this point. We'll plug that into my map, and that's here. So that is to the north, indeed northeast or northwest of Verbove, and this is the area that we've just been talking about, exactly sort of there. So just to finish off what he was saying, Rebar's reported, sorry. As always, we'll continue updating our assessment as we collect and reconcile more data. Tatarigami similarly says, as of September the 7th, based on satellite imagery from September the 6th shared in this thread and comparative analysis, it is clear that Ukrainian forces are inflicting significant damage on Russian fortified defences in the vicinity of Verbove and Novoprokopivka. While I cannot definitively confirm troop control from imagery alone, it's clear that the Russian forces are encountering intense artillery fire. The obliterated positions behind the Surovikin line near Verbove suggest they may be struggling to defend the area. This image, captured a week ago, can serve as a valuable point of comparison, indicating that the pressure on Russian defences has been consistently maintained. An additional image from September the 6th corroborates earlier reports regarding the sustained pressure and ongoing combat in the northeastern area of Novoprokopivka. This confirmation is evident when comparing the shelling and scorched earth patterns. And this is sort of stuff that Andrew Perpetua looks at, the kind of shelling of certain areas to indicate that, the Russians are under a lot of pressure, B, that the Ukrainians are actually using their artillery quite widely here and not really sparing any ammunition compared to other places along the front line. It's worth noting, he continues, that Russia claims that it conducts counterattacks in the southwestern sector of Robotyne. Satellite imagery reveals minor changes in the area, suggesting some activity, but Russia has not provided any evidence to showcase any success. And that's what he says. So those are all the satellite images you can look at to see the activity that has been taking place. In fact, if you zoom into that is, and that's on the 31st of August, that's the 6th of September. So this is that area with the two antennae I was talking about yesterday and the day before even. And that is just, in fact, probably better on Andrew Perpetua's map here. So he has Novopokrovka, and there's that little bit of trench line set up that the Ukrainians apparently took control of. If you look at Tatarigami's satellite imagery, you can see that a week ago that is somewhat greener there, and here there seems to be a lot darker patches there, which would indicate that it has been hit by a lot of shelling. In fact, that green area there, it just, you look over these images and you think, yeah, this image at the top here, which is the more recent satellite imagery, just shows a lot more evidence of shelling all over here. Just a lot of spots, and obviously this isn't very good resolution here, and I'm not zooming in. But what you would do, although some of the Sentinel imagery isn't great, is you look at the fields and go, well, that one there is quite green, and that one there ain't so green, and covered in lots of brown dots that form just an overall brownness. And then you have these larger dots that could be multiple launch rocket system impacts, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of thing that Andrew Perpetua spends his days doing, and gives you at the end of it a map that looks something like that. And he goes over every field in Ukraine pretty much, or certainly along the front lines. And then finally we have a claim, and this goes back to what Wargonzo was saying wherever he was here, that the Ukrainians have advanced towards Luhove, southeast of Kamyanska. That is just there, but by the reservoir, or what was. The Ukrainians have made some advances there, so we'll go and have a look at that. But again, that's what we heard this morning, and haven't heard anything since. So that is some Ukrainian advances around here, not yet reflected on the mapping, as far as I can tell. If we look on Andrew Perpetua's map here, and we go to, as you can see, it was last updated sort of 5 hours ago, so there won't have been any significant difference around here. And that is that. So rather a quiet day. I was hoping for a lot more information coming out throughout the day. It just hasn't yet. Probably will just as soon as I send this live. Just a few, really only like 2 or 3 extra elements of information from what I said this morning. So apologies if you're wanting a lot more. It's just the nature of the beast. But interesting that 6 to 7 weeks, that gives us what? That's broadly 1.5 to 2 months from now. And we're fairly much at the beginning of September. So that's September, end of October, really. And that's where they are seeing the counteroffensive kind of finishing there. But I guess it's not about putting a time limit on these things. It's like it will finish when it needs to finish and when they culminate. And yes, they will have to take into account the weather and the mud. But I think it's a bit dangerous to put definite timescales on these things, because you're only setting yourself up for a fail. Anyway, that's the front line. It's just a few pins, not a lot more. Sorry about that. Take care, and I'll speak to you tomorrow with hopefully more information.